This episode is brought to you by Microsoft Azure. Turn your ideas into reality with an Azure free account. Get everything you need to develop apps across cloud and hybrid environments, scale workloads, create cloud-connected mobile experiences, and so much more. Discover what you can create with popular services free for 12 months. Learn more at azure.com. That's AZURE.com. And sign up for a free account to start building in the cloud today.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you're doing, and welcome to the second post-conference presser for Anfield Index of this season. So it was an early start, wasn't it, up at the AXA, 9 o'clock this morning for Arne Slot's press conference. We'll do the normal that we do, ladies and gents. We'll talk the questions he was asked, the answers he gave. We'll talk the lessons learned from Ipswich. Did anyone play themselves in or out? We'll talk Bournemouth threats, and we'll give our predicted lineup and score and scorer. I mean, it's fascinating, Arne. There's only like 2 Premier League ones, but it's almost like he's box office, but not Jurgen Klopp, a different type of box office. So if you think last week we talked about the way he almost corrects journos, hones in on details, deals with things in a certain way. Just to preview this and give you a spoiler alert, we had in this one, let's just get this right, ageism, swearing, corrections, and many other things, all beautifully done as well before people get alarmed by those topics. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I mean, there was some at the start about, you're nervous about 4:30 on Sunday and your Anfield debut, straight away on the correction. Well, it's not a first taste at Anfield, just played against Sevilla, but it's the first league game at Anfield. I'm looking forward to it, but I look forward to every game. And this one now, no, I don't feel the nerves. See, say about those small details that he picked up on last week and corrects journalists, even though you wouldn't normally, but it's very much his mentality, isn't it? Precision, finer details. He will correct, he will clarify, for his mind as well. Excellent communicator. So again, some people will say could be abrasive longer term. So one person's abrasive, another person's honest and direct at the same time, isn't it? It's an interesting one. He was asked about Dashvili, and again, a bit of a wry smile. I think you know already the answer. If the deal is done, then you'll hear from us. Until that moment, we don't speak about transfers or players that aren't ours. Same as last week, no different. Exactly what you expected him to say. Served up by the Journo. Lovely cover drive for 4 down the ground, trickling away beautifully. No messing about. And I was glad he kind of kept that. There wasn't too many more questions because, let's be honest, everything that's going on, I was wondering, is this going to be like a transfer bombardment? And there were people saying before about Richard Hughes should be with him, facing it, etc., etc. But dealt with everything really, really well. It was, I said, about transfers, funnily enough, and don't seem worried about the transfer activity. He said, no, because I trust the team. I said before, I inherited a very good team, a team of many young players as well. And we know that, especially how young players can develop. We just try to work as hard as we can with them, and they proved last week they've earned it from us, and hoping we share the same on Sunday as well. I don't really know what else he was supposed to say. He's already given his comments on, well, we have to be honest on those. I'd be surprised if there's no one comes in before the window shuts. He's talked about trusting Richard. So that's where the focus should be on, isn't it? Liverpool's recruitment team, Richard Hughes and the others involved in that. So we know that's not his role. There's not really too much he can say on that. Although there were transfer things coming a bit later, so we'll talk about those as well. Was also asked about Ipswich. The first half, the second half, how did you feel on that? He said, well, we're on a good track, but we have to understand some have only been back for 3 weeks, and quite a large part of the group's only been back for 3 weeks. It's not just about us as well, our opponent, and what they bring to the game. Ipswich put a lot of energy into the first half, or maybe we stepped up, or Ipswich weren't able to bring the same energy maybe in the second half. Maybe, or I think it's a bit of both. We got more space, and then you saw how well these boys can play. Quite happy, interestingly, to almost and analyse it, isn't he, with the jury? Give that detail of how he sees it. You almost get more of an insight from him that way. Didn't say anything wrong, though, at all, did he? That, it has only been a short time. He's worked with them. It was the first game, so you can't expect miracles. But the second half was good, and he was quite right. Ipswich probably did tire in the heat. We stepped it up. Combination of those things. And then, it was interesting. And he said about, we asked about, it's an interesting one, this question. I won't keep saying that word, but learning more, did you learn more about the players, via the subs and certain things? So I'm learning more every day about these players, the individuals, and how they cooperate with each other. Last week was not only important on Saturday, but Sunday too, as I learned about the ones that didn't play on Saturday, and they were able to bring a really good training session. It's really important, as we know, we'll need many, many of them, and it'll help us throughout the rest of the season. We're still learning new things about the players, which is normal, and still seeing new things from them. Yeah, it's still it's still early on in the learning process, and I think that's important to say. As much as there was a lot talked about who did play, and we can come on to that for Ipswich game, who didn't get a minute? You think the likes of Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, Darwin Núñez didn't get a single minute on that pitch on Sunday. So it was interesting. We said that, isn't it? Referenced those players, and that they weren't the only ones, don't get me wrong, but a lot of players obviously training well on the Sunday, and that's probably the toughest part of his job, isn't it? Keeping everyone happy. But it's interesting that he's mentioning that and, keeping it in mind, you think, for the journalists and for us as well. Listen, this is still early on in the process. Let's not get carried away. Some of these players have only been back a few weeks. Speaking of players that have only been back a few weeks, Joe Gomez was the next person questioned about and how he's getting on in the right headspace. Said, well, he's been in the right place for 3 weeks. He's worked really hard since he's come back. He didn't play at the Euros, and in the first sessions, he couldn't train the whole session. We had to manage his load a little bit. But this week, he's had a good week in terms of load and how much he could do with the teams. He's one of those players that I've seen the new things from. It's been a good week from him overall. Yeah, there was always going to be a question about Joe Gomez, and understandably, wasn't it? Left out the squad, and then the Paul Joyce article around, looking at his options, and obviously there's a lot of rumours, as there always is at this time of the year, about him and who may be interested in him, and that Sam Maguire exclusive about looking to go down south. People are referencing that, teams that will need centre-half. So, yeah, I thought he delivered that well on his thought, because I think if you start going into, we talked about it, and the details of the Joyce article, it gets messy and it'll lead to follow-up questions. Just no, all business, nipped it in the bud nicely. Speaking of business, though, Brentford came up and he was like, oof, wow. So he said, we brought in 2 really talented players. You could ask, why did they leave us? But, they played a lot of minutes last season, and both of them wanted to continue that journey of playing time. Both are able to play for us, but there's so much competition in the positions they play. They wouldn't play every minute for us, that's clear. It was a really, really good deal for us. It was a good deal for Brentford and the players. Everyone's happy, unless they do too well on Sunday. So a couple of things to unpick on this. Agree completely with what he said. Sepp van der Berg and Fabio Carvalho are never going to be, or were never going to be, Liverpool first teamers. I think that a regular, that much is clear. There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean they're bad players. There's clearly talent there. And he's right. If you think of the competition in the places and the fact that you saw Carvalho as a left winger, the centre-backs, Van der Berg was never, without injuries or rotation, going to get ahead of BBD, Canate, Quansah, and Gomez. That much is clear, really, isn't it, in that regard? So it's good sales. And if you look at the prices as well, you think at one stage we were rejecting apparently around £10 million for Sepp van der Berg to get a total deal of 25 million potentially, and that 17.5% sell-on. Fabio Carvalho up to 27.5 million with this, again, the 17.5% sell-on. Those are really good bits of business. They really are. Maybe a couple of things that we should use score right this window so far with that caveat. So he's completely correct about what he said. The only thing I didn't like is everyone happy unless they do too well on Sunday. Carvalho was already there. I get you can't stop him playing on Sunday. Sepp, I don't get, though. It's like, couldn't you... I know people will shout at this. Couldn't you delayed it or put something in the contract? It shouldn't matter too much. I know people are going to say that. It just surprised me that it is happening, but hey ho, it is what it is. Then asked the right question. Some people didn't like this. I've seen some people bristle, but about Jarell Quansah and how he reacted, it was the right question to ask. He said, reacted in the way you would expect. I spoke to him immediately after the game, and I spoke to him on Sunday again. At the end of the conversation, he asked if he could train. Unfortunately, on Tuesday, he picked up a bit of an injury, so let's see if he can train today. He reacts in the way every player should react, but maybe the language and the way I explained it was a problem. I said he lost every duel, but he lost one or two important ones, and one was just before half-time. And that's from what it looks like to me. They're not lost every duel, which he didn't. We as a team lost too many duels. What I said to the team afterwards, it wasn't about Jarell, it was about the team. But in my opinion, the only danger at that moment from Ipswich was Delap, and he won one or two important duels. And I was trying to bring that strength out the team by bringing on Ivo. Does give away a lot, to be fair, quite honest and direct, doesn't he? Klopp would keep it more reserved. Yeah, of course, you could see Quansah on the bench. He was fuming. He should be fuming. You're in a place to be happy off. I've got him taken up at half-time. It's understandable. You also like to hear the attitude, don't you? You really do like to hear that of, wanting to train Sunday, which is great. Get head down, work in the right way. That's brilliant to hear about Quansah. I think the team's going to pick itself a little bit now for Sunday, isn't it? Because that knock may train today. So we got the first real injury of the Arne Slot era. Hopefully it's just, he's back training and, but you suspect he's going to be on the bench now because of that as well. And right in what he said, you've seen people like Shearer, Lineker latch onto this whole thing about, I can't believe he did that to a young player. No, they had a nice conversation and it proved right, didn't it? Yes, the team improved, which you also mentioned. It was a combo of factors, but Ibu won his duels against Delap as Ipswich faded. That just him being aggressive on the pitch and winning those, it just diminishes their hopes, doesn't it? Whereas if it maybe Quansah had stayed on, and it could have still happened either way. Don't get me wrong, Quansah could have absolutely nailed it second half. But if it had continued, it might look different, or it'd been a different timeline, if you want to call it that, a bit marvelly as well. So it's just an important one to think about there. As much as people seem to want to lambast Lot's decision, he was honest, he explained it clearly, it's logical, lack of emotion in one way, some people will say, but it worked. Let's keep that in mind. Then he was asked about the selling of young players, because obviously that people have latched onto that. Bobby Clark, as well as Van der Berg, departed yesterday. Others set to go at the same time. He said, it's difficult as young players want to play. They come through the ranks. Sometimes they're good enough, but there's just too much competition. The team with what we have, we still have a list of homegrown players. And one, for instance, Trey Ione, is training with us on a daily basis. It's always a challenge to find the right moment. If they played a lot of minutes, they want to make the next step in their career. But if there's stars playing here, it's maybe best for the club to let them go. Have an interest, of course, for the club, but also for the players. If they want to play somewhere and they're not happy with, say, 500 to 600 minutes, then you have to, in my opinion, let them develop elsewhere. I didn't mind this answer. I think I understand people like all the departures, we know incomings, and that's sort of the backdrop for it, the context. There seems to be a lot of the younger players that people will look at that photo from the Klopp Carabao winning side, weren't they? All the kids with the Trent and the trophy. I get that to an extent. A couple of things to call out are, if he thinks they're good enough at a certain age, they will be involved. I mean, you've seen quite clearly, as he called out specifically, Trey is with the first team. We all see he's a special talent. No doubts about that. He wants to work with him. Narlo, another one, looks at talent, doesn't he? You can see he wants to work with him. He wouldn't be surprised if he was one of those ones that got 500-600 minutes. Even today, it's announced that Liverpool have completed the signing of young Alvin Ayman, I think it's pronounced, from Wolves, around 2 million. And people will be a bit like when Rio Ngoma, I think it's pronounced, it signed, I know it's still got to go through checks, clearances, whatever it's called, was, underwhelming. No. In the current Brexit situation, this is a good thing. We can't take a badge from a Celta Vigo or anything like that. These are good moves, and it's clear that if they have the talent, they will work with them. They will make them part of the picture as well. No doubts about it at all. Just because he maybe doesn't see a Bobby Clark as breaking it, in or being one to work with, doesn't mean that, it's all doom and gloom for the youngsters. Maybe as well, it's the interest in that phrase, 500-600 minutes. Maybe you just wonder if that's a conversation he's had with a Ben Doak or a Stefan Bajcetic to say, as it stands, quite honest and clear, here is how I see it for you. You'll probably get about 500-600 minutes, and those players have gone, I want to play more. It's like, okay, well, it's not going to be here, whether that's a loan, as it seems to be for Badge, loan or perm even for Doak, using those examples. It's not a bad thing. I think they all know where they stand clearly. That's my honest take on it. He was also asked about the Gravenberch, how he got on as a six. He said, brings in qualities we like, but he's only played 3 games in that position. He's done really well against United, Sevilla and Ipswich, but only one of those games was one that matters. So he has a lot to prove. But the first games, he did really well. Like with all of them, though, it's not about individuals. It's what the team around him do to allow him to play a good game. Get ready for this. If all the other 10 would have played shit at Ipswich, then he wouldn't have been able to play a good game. He didn't put the inflection on shit that I did. I just wanted to call that out. He has running capacity so he can keep on running. He's comfortable with the ball, so there's attributes we can play in that position. There's a lot to prove for him, and we have other options in that position too. Yeah, that was the way he did swear, just to clarify. He did use the S word, which a lot of people made a lot of, but who cares? I liked it. And I think he was quite honest, blunt, direct. Yeah, Gravenberch had a good game. There's nothing wrong with saying that at all. It's still early days, and that doesn't mean we should lambast him to be a player because he's not a natural six. So if he doesn't have a great performance against Ipswich, it would be good if people didn't come out and say, he's not good. It's not his fault, the situation. Ryan Gravenberch wasn't signed as a six for Liverpool. That much is clear. He's almost ended up in that position. I don't want to say by default, maybe because of what's happened, however you wish to phrase it, really. But he did well first game. I'm sure he will try his hardest. Let's just see what develops. But let's not all jump on his back because of the situation if it doesn't end up how we did. And just for clarity, we didn't jump on Alexis McAllister's back last season, did we? When we were like, he's not a natural six. We knew the quality. So let's mirror the same energy. Let's not be hypocritical. Let's be consistent across the board. We'll see how he does getting on. And then the final question, this was brilliant, this. Asked by James Pearce, said, so just to confirm, is Gomez staying this season or could he still leave? Said, well, at this moment, I'm expecting everyone to be here. But looking at you, maybe you've been even longer in football, look a little bit older than me, which everyone had a good chuckle at in the room. So everything can change. One thing I know is Tony Barrett is longer in football than me. So we'll see. And then he said, let's end it there. And just got up and walked away. In the nicest way, for a friendly vibe, that with James Pearce, and walked away there. So, yeah, I think you see this is the points I was trying to bring in that press conference. Jovial with certain elements, having a laugh with the journos, correcting them still, making sure, judging if they're a worthy opponent, if you want, the way you did things, being honest, being direct, giving us maybe more explanation than we used to in regards to tactics, how he sees things as well. You really start to understand this methodology, direct, frankness, all these types of things. So, a lot to like for me. So those were the Q&As, quite lengthy, as you can see. Ipswich clues, a lot of people have talked Ipswich. We know, shit first half, to use Arne Slot's phraseology. Brilliant second half. 6 big chances, 16 shots in the second half, 50 touches in the opposition box overall. Probably should have scored more, let's just be honest. We missed a few sitters. wasteful at the same time as well. We always talk about anyone play their way in or out. Before his injury anyway, I think there probably have been question marks against Jarell Quansah, and I'll come on to those in the team lineup. But now, especially as he might have the injury, he might not be fit for it, I think that's an easy decision, and it's easy who comes in, isn't it? Because he came on the second half. Robbo, I mean, I think Robbo really struggled on Saturday. He made some strange decisions. That one where he comes over, he lets it bounce, he just barges the player over. The one where he almost intercepts it, but he won't use his right. He kind of stumbles on it and falls, and then always plays it back into his path and has to move again. The hospital pass to Ryan Gravenberch, where Amari Hutchinson comes through and rattles him, but it was all about the pass that he gave him was just so strange. The one where no really explained, where he almost runs around the back of Virgil, he just didn't seem suited to that build-up, that press bait that Arne Slot is looking to do, did he really? I think there was an interview, interestingly, where, he came out and said he'd been playing in pain for those last bits of the season, and he's not fit, clearly, either. It must be strange for Simicast, isn't he? Robbo is clearly not fit, and he's still, you've done all the pre-season, Costas, but Robbo's still getting ahead of you, which probably links to quite a few of the rumours we're seeing, isn't it, as well? But yeah, I wouldn't say it's looking good for Costas's future, personally. But so I'd say Robbo could have played his way out, but do I have faith he'll put Costas in? I would not go that way either. But Brentford, yeah, they both pose some threats, people. Some people will look at this and go, well, they've never won at Anfield. First home game, crowd up for it, Super Sunday, easy. Let's just be clear. They won their opening game 2-1. They beat Palace. It was a great goal by Mbeumo, who looks lively, a player we have looked at. I know a player that I wouldn't be surprised if we like as well. Doesn't hurt to maybe have bad relations, or we've got good relations, I should say, with Brentford, the 2 deals we've done recently. Wissa, there's dangers there. I mean, I think of Mbeumo, he's talked to L'Équipe, hasn't he, about wanting to make the next move, so he might still have hopes. Wouldn't be surprised if he wants to turn it on against us, especially. Ivan Toney, I mean, we don't know if he's been involved. The last Thomas Frank interview said he has been trading, and he's not been ruled out. You think Fabio Carvalho will have a point to prove? Sepp could start as well, by the sounds of it. It wouldn't be that big a surprise. So, despite just going on, they've got a horrendous record. Anfield, we're the better team. Yeah, I don't see this as being maybe the easy game. I also think back to last season, the first home game of the season, when played Bournemouth. Do you remember? It was a bad game in one sense, because Trent makes the error for their goal, really sloppy. And do you remember, even though it was overturned, because it was a stupid decision, McAllister was sent off. But it's just a reminder sometimes how first home games of the season, no matter what you think of them, it won't be any type of a walkover. It's so important to say that. So it comes to the lineup and then predicted score and scorers. So the lineup for me, I think it will be largely the same. I think it's the same backline, but Konate comes in for Quansah, naturally because of the injury, but also when I've had him anyway. I think you look at the way Brentford play and that they are an aerial side. They will, set pieces, Pinnock, that type of player. Konate will be important there. He's stronger in the air than Quansah. There's no two ways about it. As you saw, Jacob Greaves had kind of the better on him a few times as well, Quansah. So I think that would have been without the injury in Slot's mind and obviously the second half. So I suspect fully Konate starts. Midfield, I don't see any reason to change it. Attack, I don't see any reason to change it as well. People will talk about, Cody Gakpo is probably more suited to this, and I get that, but probably wants to work with Luis Diaz. And then, again, what could be proved wrong? I expect changes in this one. I do expect Harvey to see minutes. I do expect Curtis, a bit of rotation that way. And I know it's still a game every week before the internationals, but I just get the feeling it would be right and natural to see more rotation. The thing is, if those players, say, didn't play a single minute of this game again, it kind of prompts more questions and unwanted attention, isn't it? What's Harvey Elliott, what's Curtis Jones, Darwin Núñez not doing, or what's wrong with them, etc. So I expect them to have minutes. I could well be wrong. And the score and scorers, I'm going to go 2-0. It's not a huge scoreline, but I'd love it if we kept a clean sheet. I'd love it if we get into that routine. I really would. So maybe it's a bit hope with expectation, but 2-0, Mo Salah to be on the score sheet because he just looks so revitalised. You can't bet against the Egyptian king, can you, at all? So Salah, first goal scorer, 2-0. We would take that all day. Positive goal difference, clean sheets again, a win, and no injuries because they should never look too far ahead. But it's Old Trafford the week after this one as well, isn't it? We'll see, ladies and gents, eh? We'll see what develops. But on Friday, the 23rd of August, I was post-conference presser. And just a shout out, I will be joined by a special guest tomorrow on Saturday, the 24th of August on Daily Red. So please keep your eyes out for that. But enjoy your work day. Enjoy your weekend, wherever you are. Speak soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.